This video is in lieu of a real-life field trip wherein I'm taking my practicum students on a virtual field trip. This video is meant to explore and test the waters for how the real field trip would go. For my practicum in math, science, and technology, I focus my lessons on the overall unit theme of planting. This theme was to include a service learning project of planting a community garden to help subsidize food for the school, those students within the school who do not have access to food, and to the community. My practicum class was a VPK classroom of 14, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. For my service learning project, I conducted my virtual field trip at the USF Botanical Gardens in Tampa. This trip allowed students to see plant growth of all kinds, not just the food that we eat. The main reason for the trip was to culminate everything we have learned in the past lessons on how plants grow, what we need to take care for them, and where food comes from. The Botanical Gardens offer 7 acres of landscape displays, habitat types, and greenhouse collections throughout which you can explore. The gardens house a collection of fruit trees and palms from around the world, carnivorous plants, tropical and subtropical trees and shrubs, orchids, begonias, mallows, ferns, and an herb and scent garden, as well as many animal species found only in Florida's wetlands and habitats. This field trip would hopefully show the students what the fruits of their labor would produce. The students would be able to see how fruits and vegetables were planted, labeled, and growing in various stages. The students would see that this garden supports the community in providing fresh and healthy food. By going on this field trip, I was able to see things that would and would not work in taking my VPK students on a field trip. I realized that the gardens were much too large to spend the amount of time that I had predetermined. There were also areas that the students would not be able to go. And I feel that for the younger students, it would be far too overwhelming and overstimulating. The areas that I found that would work best for my students was the vegetable garden, where the students could see how the plants were growing and how they had been tended for. And there was a children's area that I found that had examples of how to pot plants that you could take with you. The gardens also offer guided tours, which would be incredibly helpful to us, having someone there to tell us what we were learning about, areas of interest, and keeping our students on track. When I finally came upon the vegetable garden, it was nice to see that there were people working. Having people in my video taking care of the garden would give my students a visual understanding of what goes into taking care of the garden, watering, planting, etc. It was also very exciting to find out that they kept bees near the garden, so the students could learn about how the bees help pollinate the plants. Here you can see how the plants are labeled, starting off as smaller plants, growing into bigger ones, and how someone has been planting them as we would in our classroom, starting off small in a small cup or container, and eventually moving them once they've gotten bigger. Upon leaving and looking through the gift shop, I was able to see that they sold packets of the seeds so the students could pick and choose their own to add to their garden, and that they sold the honey from the bees near the vegetable garden. Overall, I think the trip went quite well. I would have preferred to have found a location closer to home and closer to the students' school, but I feel that this had a lot more things to do and many more things to learn about. The trip allowed the students to see plant growth of all kinds, not just the food that we eat. With a little additional planning, I feel this would be an excellent field trip to take my VPK students on.